Almighty God, you have blessed us with memory, reason, and skill. Help us use them wisely in the service of our town government. We ask this in thy holy name. Amen. Salute the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, we only have one visitor and one guest. Harry, you're the show.
It's going to be quick. My two grandchildren just got here this afternoon, so I'm going to make this very quick. I wanted to start by just talking to you a little bit about sales tax. You probably heard it's back up, and we're right where we should be. I also wanted to commend you for sorry. We had talked before, and Larry, I don't remember the exact figure that you had budgeted for the election.
Yes.
You know, was it? Do you remember what was it for?
We normally budgeted $8,000 a year
Yeah.
for election, but the meeting I was at indicated it could be a lot more than that. That was our concern 2-3 months ago.
Okay. Well, you're ahead of the curve, and one of the things, and I think I mentioned this to all of you about 2 months ago, that I was going to lobby and see if we couldn't get some money, because it's an unfunded mandate by the state. The county might be able to step in, and lo and behold, there's enough people in the outlying districts to make enough noise that I think we're going to have a consensus to do that. What I didn't want to have happen, because you budgeted more than most, I didn't want Champlain, the town of Champlain, to be penalized because you budgeted some and others did not. So they're not going to base it on what you budgeted. They're going to base it on the number of election districts and the number of people. Now, the question is, what are they going to pay? And that we have not come up with a figure yet. But even if it's, to throw a figure out there, 25%, that would be something to offset your costs. And it probably would only be for 1 year. But, you know, I was really encouraged after talking to legislators that, you know, this was something, and I was, because of your board, I was the first one to bring it up down there and say we really need to address this issue. So I'm hopeful. I hope to have a report in the next month or so to let you know specifically how much, but it's going to be based upon their 4 election districts in the town of Champlain, so we'll have X amount of dollars to return to you relative to that, and it won't matter how much you put in the budget. And hopefully that will take care of the problem and won't be a drain this year. So I'm very pleased about that. It's kind of one of those things where you're never sure whether it's going to work out, but it did. Go ahead, Larry.
It's sort of a double whammy this year because we have a primary, I believe, in September, plus the general election. And at the meeting I was at 4 or 5 months ago, they said it could have cost us almost $30 per voter.
Yeah.
Something ridiculous, you know.
Well, and that, of course, it's 57 cents a ballot, but in a lot of cases you have to buy 3 because you know, you need an alternate ballot, they make a mistake and that kind of stuff and so on to run through the machine. So, but you're right, it could cost, especially in the primary, it could cost an awful lot per vote. All right, so anyway, I'm very pleased. I'll have a figure for you, hopefully coming down the pike, and it'll be rebated to you. As you probably know, the county is getting killed in terms of the state, and we've seen cuts of over $1 million in social services, probation, nursing home, and so on. And I don't know what to tell you about next year in terms of the tax rate and so on. It's just, they are so draconian, but, and that kind of leads me into the next thing. One of the things we've been talking about is how to enhance the volunteer firefighters, how to get retention and recruitment so that people can stay in the fire department or join the fire department. And one of the ideas that I've been pushing at the county level was this 10% tax reduction. Lo and behold, we finally got it passed by the Assembly and the Senate in the state of New York. Having said that, the governor is now in the process of vetoing 6,000 bills. And initially, he had this bill in the category of an unfunded mandate, that, you know, the state wasn't going to put any money, but that there was going to be a tax reduction would have to be made up. The fallacy in that argument is the fact that you guys still have to vote on it. It isn't something that the state is telling you have to do. I hope you do it, but you don't have to. So it isn't really an unfunded mandate. It's the opportunity to pass along a 10% savings for all municipalities, village, town, county, school. And, you know, we'll see whether the government, if he puts it in the stack of 6,000 vetoes, then it's cooked for another year. If he doesn't, if he can see it as an enhancement issue in terms of, because he knows there's a problem with volunteer firemen, and you guys probably go to as many of those dinners as I do. And if you look around the room, there are 2 or 3 guys under 30, and there's a lot of people with a lot of experience, let's just say that, okay? They've been there a while. And we need to somehow do this. Now, whether a 10% tax reduction is the answer, it's certainly one of them. And actually, your dad was at the meeting the other night talking a little bit more about some ideas that he had about trying to get something from businesses and so on. But I think if we all work together, we can make an enhancement so that somebody will consider it, especially a young person with a family and so on. We have made it, excuse me, on a separate issue, we made a decision, as you may have read in the paper, on the retirement incentives. We have 240 people at the county that were eligible to retire, and none of them met the criteria that we put forth. And the criteria that we put forth was a budgetary neutral figure, which means that even though the state doesn't count it, a number of us got together and said we wanted health insurance counted also, even though you're not supposed to count it. So that what good does it do if you save $5,000 on an employee and the next employee comes in and you have to give them a $20,000, that's what our family policy costs. So with that said, no one at the county level met the criteria that we had set, so we're not going to offer the incentive. Do you vote on, you're not either? No.
We have not, we looked into it somewhat. There's quite a cost to it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, the one thing we did do, because there were some people who felt that they did actually meet the criteria. We direct, of course, we have a personnel man, but we were able to sit down with them and go through the figures so that when they walked out of the room, they at least understood where we were coming from, and I think that was a positive. Excuse me.
We have until the end of August, I believe. Here.
Right. Now, you saw your figures on your aid coming from the state. It was a 5% figure, which didn't appear to impact.
$1,000.
That's right. It didn't appear to impact you too much. On the airport, I went to the opening of the new U.S. Air. They've been averaging 3 times what Cape Air did at $4.50 a piece. We got $70,000 last year in revenue from all of the airplanes. If we're up 300% on this particular one, we can see a tremendous increase in revenue, and that's just what we'd hope for. The feedback I'm getting is that the flights are good. Obviously there's full service flights from Plattsburgh to Boston, and then flying anywhere in the country in U.S. Air, so it's working out very well. Pardon me. The only other thing I would mention, and Larry, I think you were at the last Pfizer meeting that we had, but there is a sense on the part of some of the taxing jurisdictions that they need to get together and talk about giving tax breaks, so that the potential is that we're trying to maintain the buildings and so on. And there is some discussion. I don't know, have you had a chance to talk with your board about that?
No, I have not.
Okay. I believe the Shazy School Board has already voted to give them a tax break, so that's my understanding. So it's a matter of public record that this process is moving along. The only thing that I would add to that is that from the county's point of view, we are also, I think, interested in making sure that any past litigation is also settled at the same time, so that we're not in a position where we're giving a tax break and then we're still arguing about the taxes that were paid in 2001 or 2002. Everything is kind of part of a settlement, but it could come up relative to the assessments in Rouse's Point and the ChemD facility. If it's I think it's going to be the position of most people that marketing a building is better than obviously marketing the land that's there. So hopefully, if need be, and we're just starting the process, it's more focused now in Shazy, but I do think that we may be looking at that issue. So that's all I have. Again, anything you need, give me a call. Any questions you have now, I'd be happy to answer them if I can, so, if anybody has them.
I am going to report later this evening on the sales tax.
Okay, good.
We have our second quarter sales tax. Money came in, and I had James go back, roughly $5,000 more than a year ago,
Yeah.
second quarter. So that's positive. I was pleased at that it's not less. We are aware of that.
Well, I think the Canadian dollar has brought more people down here too.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are aware of the approximate $2,000 cut from state aid. We know that this fall. We are somewhat like the county and the state. Our budgets are going to be tight. There's no doubt about it.
So on the firefighters tax discount, that can't work in the opposite direction? It has to start at the state level and then trickle down?
You have to get approval. It's not, all they're doing is giving there's no state reduction. There's already a $200 state reduction.
Right.
All they do is, and they've done this for some other counties, we would not be the first, but it would allow us, there has to be specific legislation to allow us to do that. Now, if you add up the taxes for all the taxing jurisdictions, it's about $30 a thousand. So it would depend, and of course, in the legislation that we proposed, you could take the $200 and you could add to it.
Right.
I'm not sure that that's going to be in the final bill, okay? I have not seen a copy of that. But, so the break-even point would be somewhere in the neighborhood of a $65,000 home if all taxing jurisdictions went along with it. Then they would see that benefit.
Okay.
But, there are some, as I think I mentioned at the last meeting, I don't want to single anybody out, but some of the local boards do not even allow a veteran exemption, so let alone a firefighter exemption. So they may not, and the school board is, as you know, is the state aid education is down so much that, I think what people are going to need, and I think the county can provide this, is what's it going to cost us? All right, if we do this, how many firefighters are eligible and how much, and I would expect you would do the same thing before you vote on it, some kind of rough estimate, and I think the county will be able to have some of those figures for you, assuming this passes.
Right. Thank you.
Well, we did the Cold War exemption a couple years ago. We asked for input from the county real property office, and they gave us an approximate figure of
Yeah.
how many people would qualify and what it would cost us. Certainly the fire department is a worthy cause. Whatever we can do to enhance membership in fire departments, I think we take a real close look at that.
Good.
I don't.
Okay.
Any other questions for Harry? We appreciate you coming in.
Okay. I will say goodnight if
No,
that's
you can
okay.
stay as long as you want.
I know, but grandkids are grandkids.
Absolutely.
Let me give you
Good night, Harry. Thank you.
Take care. Okay. I need a motion to approve the minutes of June 8th, our regular June 4th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of June 8th.
Okay.
Is there any questions or concerns about the minutes of June 8th? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. The next thing is you have your work schedule for the assessor's office. They're here every Friday to meet with the public. They're here on some of the Mondays to do field work. They're not always in the office, but they're here on Mondays also. Okay. But you're here every Friday, year round, just for your information. This next issue from the real property office also, it's analysis of properties that we're taking off the exempt rule. And I questioned this one, I want to understand it better. For instance, if a person bought a piece of property that was tax exempt, it could be an old age exemption, it could be a veterans exemption or whatever, and that new owner did not qualify for that exemption. They had to come back and pay those taxes on that property for a portion of the year that they owned it, and not the original owner. That's where that all comes from. Okay? And on the second page, you'll see what is owed to the town. That'll come through on our next year's settlement with the county. Okay? thing is the membership bulletin from PERMA. This is for some upcoming training. It's also just for your information. PERMA is our insurance carrier for compensation. Okay. The next thing is also from NYMER, which is our insurance carrier for fire and liability insurance. And it looks like they took a slight loss, so we'll share in their losses around over a 5-year period. There's no great impact on the budget, okay? Just to know that. You have your CEO outreach monthly report, which is very interesting. They do coming in a timely fashion. Please read it over. You have your dog control complaint log. Several calls, I read them over. The dog control officer seems to be somewhat busy with complaints. We have a letter from the Clinton County Health Department pertaining to training is, I believe, tomorrow. Yes, in Lake Placid, pertaining to either involving disaster response and/or for your pets during a disaster. Okay? A lot of times pets go unattended during natural emergencies, whatever so be, whatever it be, storms or earthquakes or ice storms. A lot of pets go. Pardon?
Also, I see that Mr. Mott has an attachment where he passed the inspection.
Yes, yes.
It's attached.
Our dog control officer's kennel, where he keeps dogs, has to have a yearly inspection. That, he did pass that, yes, I did notice that also. Thank you, Dick. Okay. We have a letter from the Department of Transportation pertaining to the Hayford Road crossing that they have extended the monitoring period extended through the end of this year, and they have to report back to the State Transportation Department by the end of January. It's just ongoing monitoring of the Hayford Road crossing tracks. Okay. We have a letter from the Assembly, Jana Dupree, Assembly person. Although we don't have a budget, the emergency spending bill passed by the legislature on June 7th includes $363 million for CHIPS funding. This maintains the level from last year's budget. So we're going to get the same amount of money we got last year from CHIPS. That's highway fund money, the highway from the state. Our allocation is $93,173. I have a letter from Bruce Seguin, zoning board, asking to be allowed to attend a training seminar tomorrow, July 15th in Albany. I'd like, for the record, have a motion to approve that.
I make a motion that we allow Bruce Seaman, chairman of the zoning board, to attend the Albany School for zoning officers.
I second that.
Okay, thank you. For information only, it's a $70 fee plus travel expenses, no hotels or nothing. Okay. Any questions on that one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We have a letter from, this is the same subject matter, from our attorney, Bill Favreau, pertaining to the Hayford Road crossing. He got a letter, same letter we got, and forwarded it to us. So that's nice. We got a letter from the Clinton County Health Department pertaining to a Healthy Neighborhood Program. Basically what it is they're asking us for our input for people within the township that might need help with several things. Rural preservation, Office for the Aging, it all refers to mostly elderly or low-income families, what they would qualify for. If anybody knows of anybody in those types of needs, get with us, and we'll send their name on to the county health department. We got a letter for, seminar, public health section seminar for healthcare reform. It's coming up in Lake Placid on August 4th. If anybody's interested in that, let me know. It's mostly based on healthcare reform and the new federal programs. We have a letter from Time Warner, the new listings of all the channels they have. Information only, if anybody wants a copy of that, you come in, we'll give you a copy of it. There's always some network channels have been added, some have been dropped, or some have a name change. So if anybody, Time Warner, if you're interested, you stop by. We have a letter from Alan Gibson, the Personnel Director of the County Health Department, Clinton County Office of Personnel, amending the civil service rules. I don't know that it pertains to us at this particular time, but they do keep us informed, and they're a great resource for us. As I mentioned earlier, we got a letter from the Treasurer's Office. Please find the enclosed check in the amount of $201,074.64. This check represents the second quarter distribution of 2010 sales tax revenue. And we did go back and check it. Last year we got $196,500. So we're $4,500 roughly over and above last year, which is real good news. Okay, for budget purposes, certainly. I know of nothing on the committee reports. Does anybody have anything on the committee reports, either building grants, on the highway committee? I can tell you we've, as far as the highway goes, we've paid 4 or 5 intersections. State paving machine. We had to buy the material, of course. I haven't seen them all, but
I have.
Dick has, and
Yep.
they're showing a great improvement. We will be, hopefully, by this time next month, the county will be up here with their paving machine to do Hayford Road and Clark Road, I believe. Am I right?
Yep.
Okay. They're all ready to go, culverts have been installed, and they're ready to go. We're just waiting for the county paving machine, and they will be here. And we've already traded some time with the county, helping them doing some of their paving. Mickey, will you address the meeting about tomorrow night?
Yes, tomorrow night there's a meeting of the shared services where the engineers are going to be here to put on a PowerPoint presentation. This is the culmination of the study that's been going on for the last couple of years. All 3 boards have been invited, the town board as well as both village boards. It's open to the public, and they're basically going to explain what went on in the study and have some recommendations about it. Go from there.
Okay, there will be an article in tomorrow's paper, I suspect. The reporter was here today. It's open to the public. It's an informational meeting. How best the 2 water villages can serve town and each other. Some improvements.
I'd just like to say that that's part of the focus of this, is to try to see where we go next, to try to do more things together. There is some money that's left over, so to speak, out of the money that was allocated to us, so as a net result of this presentation, we're gonna make a decision about what we can use that money to help seed some of the projects that are outlined in the study. That's really what we're looking for, is more ideas on what we can do as far as shared services go, beyond the study itself, to physically do some of these things that are recommended in the study.
Possibly some, pipe in the ground somewhere.
Yes.
Someday,
Yes.
Okay. I need this issue addressed. I was you like to,
We've got 10 signs, entry signs into the town from all avenues.
welcoming to the village township?
Exactly. Also, and we did some work in our facility as well on the outside. It's just been, it's just been neglected, and it needed to be fixed up. And in the meantime, as everyone's noticed, and as you're coming into the town and on all avenues, those entry signs are just looking, they're not welcoming at all, if anyone takes any interest in them. We did some canvassing or whatever, and Yard by Yard has offered, has given us a proposal, which you all have copies of it, to do some upgrading to it, because at one time, there's all those entry signs, it cost, there was a grant that came in, I believe in 2002 or 2001, and it was $19,500. Well, we have to preserve that. I mean, you can't very well go remove those signs at this point. They're there, so we have to maintain them. It's approximately about $500 per sign to maintain them right now, to take care of it and bring it to a state. Instead of, there's perennials on there, there's all different flowers, and it's just got an overgrowth of weeds and all these different things. And we'd like to put it in a state that it doesn't need to be maintained, just mown up to the sign itself. There's pressure treated wood that's around there. If we don't have all these shrubs, and it was a good idea, but we're not in the gardening business. You're gonna have to do something. So if we could get this taken care of now, I think, if we did, I make a proposal that we do like 4 of them this year, and then continue to do a few more till they're done.
There is 10 or 11 of them altogether.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a proposal that we do get them, we at least start and get 4 of them done this year. We've already checked with the Jane. There is money there, not that we have to spend it, that's by no means. But again, there's, $20,000 have been spent for these, and we have to maintain them. So I'd like to make a motion that we attack it at this point and start do 4 of them. We can discuss which 4. I would say the main ones coming in from like Shazy, Moores, Rogers Point, that area, going to and from.
They're $518.10 a piece to
Yes.
upgrade them. It's actually putting a retainer wall, I guess you might call it.
Exactly, yeah.
And with mulch around it and fabric so the weeds don't grow through. And rebar to hold them in place, plus the labor, of course. So I do have a motion to approve to do 4 of them this year. And we do have the money to do that within the budget. Is there any, I need a second before I do.
I'll second.
Thank you, John. Is there any questions on this?
We thought you were the one that offered to do it, and then nobody else offered to do it.
We know of no one else. I don't know where we go to look. I forgot the name of the person. She did call.
Yeah, we did contact another person to
Yes.
come to do the stuff out here, and they didn't even show up.
Didn't call her back or show
And
up.
I'm sure if you advertise and do all those things, but again, it's up to the board, whatever.
It's basically, it's an upgrade, to make them look nice again. If we're gonna keep the signs, we need to at least keep them up.
And that's only part of it as well. I mean, at some point, even the signs are fading as well, and I don't know,
And they were
what do you
done,
do?
they were done since I've been here within the past 5 years.
Yeah.
They're a constant upgrade. The prisoners in Dunmore, I believe, or Altona did those a few years ago. We took 2 or 3 down at a time, took them up, got them all repainted. It's somewhat of a cost. The paint was quite expensive, but they don't seem to have held up that well either. We may have to take a look at that someday. See if there's another method of a sign that might last longer. Okay. And I see a lot of towns have these signs, so I think they were a worthwhile effort to keep up. Okay. Any other questions, comments?
As far as advertising for it, you're gonna spend $100 to advertise, for sure. You know, it's, if you couldn't get anybody to call around, you couldn't get anybody, I doubt if anybody's gonna try, we're only gonna do 4, it's not gonna be a big project.
It's not a big project, it's, I guess we do all 10 if we had lots of money, but we don't have, we feel we need to do these slow and easy, and we thought maybe 4 would, not only that, we'll see what they look like before them. Any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Julie, you have any town clerk's report?
Yeah, Town of Champlain will be holding their annual garage sale on August 14th, from 9 to 5. Also that same day, the Champlain Telephone Company will be having their open house. So we're gonna be combining the two together. The maps will be available at the Champlain Telephone Company. If you wanna get on the map, you can just contact Jane or I here, and we'll put you on the map. Also, we got our new code books. They came in today. I haven't really went through them, but I have to go in and divide them all up and put the stickers in, but we got it.
Very nice.
They're nice.
That was quite timely.
Yeah, we got them quick.
Wow.
That's all I have.
Yeah.
Good job, man, Julie.
Yep, very good. Sure you spend a lot of time.
Well, it took a little while to get everything organized. But
But
Good
things go
job.
slow sometimes.
Good
they're
job.
nice because everything's together now and we don't have to go one place and look for it.
Excellent.
So, I like them.
We need to review, or the post audit bills are in your packet. We need to approve the monthly bills.
I make a motion that we pay the monthly bills.
I get it.
Thank you, John. Any questions on the monthly bills? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Does anybody else have anything to bring before the board? Yes?
Just something quick, I haven't driven by it in the last several days, so I don't know if it's been mowed, but the Champlain Community Park, has that been mowed yet this year? I know it hadn't been up to about a week or so ago.
I do not know that.
They have started mowing it, but I get the brush hog is broke. Something with the tractor, so they're waiting for parts to finish it. But it has been started.
Okay. And we did have a committee last year, and Councilman Hicks was the head of that committee, and he's no longer on the board, so I'm just wondering if that committee still exists. I know Councilman Southwick is on it. If so, I think we should probably put another councilman on it and get that board active. There's some people that like to get down there to show the property, but I don't really want to show it to them. They can't get too excited about a bunch of weeds out there, so I think we need to try to pay attention to it, not mow it every week, but mow it once or twice a year. It'd be nice, and then we can get the community excited if it looks decent. If it looks like a overgrown pile of weeds, nobody's gonna get too excited about it. We've got in September, the reenactors are gonna be doing a little bit at Dewey Tavern, and then marching from here to Shazy, then on to Culver Hill. It's going to be several days involved in all this. The Battle of Plattsburgh started up here, and it started right there. And that cemetery is very much involved with it. So I think we got to, get active and start. We did have a nice ceremony there last year, but we need to get active and start working on this. I did talk to Tom Mandeville, and I'm sure he'll be excited about this once we start looking like we're going to do something with it.
Okay, we'll check on that the very next time I see the highway superintendent, see if, if they've started it, we'll see. I'm sure it's a couple days' work over there.
Even if every councilman got his own personal lawnmower and drove around out there,
Well, Calvin, what would we do? The 5 of us? I'll probably follow you in, but you're a lot more than we'll all do it together.
Yeah, we need a leader.
We need a leader. We You'd have no problem.
I could see that coming.
Okay.
I have 2 lawnmowers, and I'll put somebody on the second one, and we'll all go in together, as long as you lead us in and show us the boundary marks.
All right.
But it does need to be maintained and mowed down, and we've done it every year, as far as I know. Certainly will be done this year.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there a way to get that committee up and going again?
I believe that the roads have all been mowed at least once,
No, the committee.
and I do know that some of the roads that were mowed early on, the weeds have really grown this year, and they've grown really fast. I've noticed that. Some that were done a little over a month ago are really back up there again, you know? So I'm assuming they're all gonna be done again. They did look great, I'll say that, but the grass and weeds have really grown this year.
Anyway, the committee, the Champlain Community Park Committee.
Well,
I'm still on board, Calvin, I just, it slipped. You're the first one to admit it.
is anybody else here on the board, on this board, would like to be on that board? If there is, just speak up, you're gonna be recommended and approved real quick.
We can do that outside the meeting, right? I can talk to other board members and see who might be interested. But, yeah. And we did have a good group. There was a good group that met a couple times, but then we didn't go any further with it, so.
I really feel when the economy improves, Calvin, it may take 2-3 years, whatever it takes, there might be some grants or funding.
Well, I'd like to get some private individuals involved, but I can't do that if it doesn't look impressive, you know, so.
Certainly,
It doesn't have to look, you know, like
Ain't
it's
much to look-
manicured.
There's not much to look at yet, right?
Yeah, well, it looks great when it's mowed, though. When it's mowed, it really looks nice. Last year when we had that event there, after the Dewey Tavern event, we dedicated a flagpole, and it really looked fairly decent there. I mean, the grass was a little long. It's not your lawn when they get done mowing it, but at least it's trimmed, and you know, you see the potential there.
Okay. And that's usually the first week of September, if I'm correct.
Well, the Battle of Plattsburgh was September 11th, so it's the Saturday or so, the weekend before that. I think it's actually the Labor Day weekend. I think Culver Hill is going to be on Labor Day, so it's probably Saturday. I'm guessing I don't have a calendar. Probably around the 4th or something that they're going to be down there. And right now they don't have any problem going to Louie and Rita's home, which was Dewey Tavern. But you know, Louie and Rita aren't going to be there forever. So it behooves the town to have our own spot available that ties in with this.
Are they gonna encamp, Calvin, or?
I know they're marching from there and they're going to camp in Shazy. I think they might be staying. I think they're leaving there on Saturday, camping in Shazy, either Saturday or Sunday. I'm not sure. I haven't talked to Craig Russell. I did see I didn't record it, my brother Sam recorded it, but the Shazy meeting, he was there, and he talked to them about it. So I know Craig, so I can get a hold of him and find out what their intents are, but it would certainly look nice because, you know, this is where on August 28th, the Indians showed up, and then gradually we had 14,000 troops there, between there and Racine's farm and all through there. You spread out 14,000 people, and you know, look at the Point of Fair with just a couple hundred, how much acreage it took.
Yeah.
So they had those there. Then on I think it was September 5th, they marched out of there and headed toward Plattsburgh. September 4th, maybe it was. But so
We will do our very best to make sure it's mowed.
in coming years, I can anticipate them camping over there overnight and then having a ceremony and then proceeding, because we're getting closer to 14th, 200th anniversary every year. I wasn't sure I was going to make it 15 years ago when we first started talking about it, but now I'm confident I'm going to be there.
Does anybody else have anything to bring before the board? I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Julie.
No, I don't wanna go out before then.
I don't know where the other one went, but I'm flying past there when you took the rail.
Or ready to receive it. But there's no rule about the fielder has to yield, the runner has to yield to the fielder. You have to clean them out.
It's a hairline interpretation there. It's just if I was umping, I might have called it the other way, and I'm sure a lot, if not most, of the umpires would call it the way Muggsy did. But had he called it the other way, then I'm sure Coach Norcross would have been there complaining. Ooh, ducked on that one. I'm an umpire and a player ducks. The ball's close. He's got a strike on him. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Full count. They're using all the lights on the scoreboard. 3-2 count, 2 outs, strike 3. Kennedy goes down swinging. Eagles pick up 3 more. They lead 8-0. We're going to the top of the 6th. The 6 o'clock chimes are ringing at Sacred Heart as Matt Henry steps in. Top half of the 6th. It's starting to look like Shazy will advance to face the Panthers of Crown Point. So they'll go from the Jaguars to the Panthers. My memory serves me right. Somewhere in our archives we've got a Jaguars and Panthers game. I believe we did one of those in a softball championship game at the Plattsburgh, near the Plattsburgh State Fieldhouse at the Plattsburgh State. There's just missing. The Lady Jags and the Lady Panthers, I believe, a few years back. Strike 3. 1 down. Center fielder Taylor Ordway at the plate. Rick O'Shea on the pitching rubber.